Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the channel where we seek the truth, or at least something approximating the truth, depending upon your viewpoint. I know I've caused some offense here and there with some of my posts, which is not to be unexpected. We're going to do another offensive post today. This one dealing with those who shall not be named. And the reason I use that term is because I have been warned that I cannot use the proper name because I will either get a strike or I will be banned outright. So what I'm going to say is this is a group of people who have been in existence for a very, very long time. They still are in existence today, and their influence is vast. Everything from pornography to the media to the government to, pick it. They have an inordinate amount of power. And I'm using this video with the presumption that it's been posted on YouTube, so it is free to be reused. Now, I want to attack this from a couple different angles. One is from the Protestant Christian viewpoint. I am a Protestant. I will tell you that openly. And one of the things that constantly comes up in dealing with people, especially today, is the idea of something called adiaphora. Now, adiaphora means something, how best to put adiaphora so you can understand what it actually means. I'm going to actually look it up. Adiaphora, in the Christian theology, is the opinion that certain doctrines or practices in morals or religion are matters of indifference because they are neither commanded nor forbidden in the Bible. So adiaphora comes up all the time in practical Christian living today, nowhere more so than in movies. I know many who are reformed, like I am, who revel in Star Wars, Star Trek, any kind of movie that comes out. They are movie files. I am not. I refuse to watch them because I know that they're evil and they promote an evil lifestyle. And we as Christians are commanded to come out and be separate in numerous places, both in Old and New Testaments. In fact, that was the entire precept that led to the founding of the nation of Israel in the Old Testament, was they were to be a separate people from the nations around them. And they had a set of laws that made them different, that set them apart. That continued into the Christian era. When Christ came and died, he did not grant carte blanche to Christians to be able to do anything and everything they wanted. He set a standard which adhered to the Mosaic Law, otherwise known as the Ten Commandments. So what this video is Leonard Nimoy, one of the stars of Star Trek, explaining the symbology that is present in his portrayal of a character named Spock. Christians that I know love Star Trek, are Star Trek fans. Some I know have gone to the Star Trek conferences, the fantasy, adventure, whatever conferences that they're called, the comic book conferences, and they condemn me for saying this is evil. That's one angle. The second angle, the misuse of theology. For example, the word Shechinah. I hear it used in Christian circles all the time. The Shechinah glory, the Shechinah this. In case you didn't know this, the word Shechinah is not in the Bible. It is a derivative of a Hebrew word that is in the Bible. But the word Shechinah itself holds a vastly different meaning than what Christians try to portray it as. And this is doublespeak. In my last video, where I read a sampling of Clement of Alexandria. He talks about those people in that video. So if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it, then come back to this video and see if you can identify the spot where Clement of Alexandria calls these people out who redefine words to make them suit their worldview. So what we're going to do now is review this video with commentary from me by Leonard Nimoy. And we're going to examine this and see if it is indeed a diaphora or a matter of indifference for Christians. So here we go. Buckle up. Slight pause as it loads.
So I'm with my father, my grandfather, and my brother, sitting in the bench seats. Women were upstairs. 5 or 6 guys get up on the bema on the stage, and they're facing the congregation. They get their talit over their heads, and they start this chanting. I think it's called duchening. And my father said to me, "Don't look." So everybody's got their eyes covered with their hands, or they've got their talit down over their faces, or turned away, turned their back to these guys. And I hear this strange sound coming from them. They're not singers. They were shouters. And dissonant. It was all discordant. And they were doing like, that kind of wailing. And all discordant, not together, not in unison. And then the leader would shout out, "Yevorechecho!" And the rest of them would respond, "Yevorechecho, Adonai v'yishmerecho!" It's chilling, you know.
Now, what he's doing here is describing an actual "they who shall not be named" service that he took part in with his family routinely as a child. So pay attention to what he's saying, because he was there, he saw it, he knows what he's talking about. I'm not the expert, he is. We're using his own words.
Whoa, something major is happening here. So I peeked, and I saw them with their hands stuck out from beneath.
So stop right here. And he's going to get into this a little bit further. If you do not recognize that hand sign, he's going to tell you what it is here in a minute and what it means in reality. So pay attention.
They tell it like this towards the congregation. Wow. Something really got hold of me. I thought, I had no idea what was going on, but the sound of it and the look of it was magical.
The sound and the look of it was magical. That's a typical response, not only to this kind of service, but also in the majority of what we would call modern Christian worship today. It's an appeal to the emotions. It's bypassing the mind. It's bypassing your rational ability. It's creeping into the heart. It's actually not creeping, it's blasting into the heart. And that's not what true Christianity is. It deals with the will. And the major problem we face in the church today is that we've adopted this kind of thing. I mean, you can go on Facebook or YouTube and look up some of these worship services that pass themselves off as Christian, and they're not much different than this, especially charismatic worship services. They're not biblical at all, but yet they pass themselves off as being biblical. And it's no different than this. So here he's going to explain what that hand sign stands for.
This is the shape of the letter Shin. Hebrew alphabet, Shin. Very interesting letter in the language. It's the first letter in the word Shaddai, the first letter in the word Shalom, first letter in the word Shechinah, which is the name of the feminine aspect of God.
Stop right there. What does Shechinah mean? The feminine aspect of God. There is absolutely zero biblical evidence to support the claim that there is a feminine aspect of God. Zero. Which is why the word's not found in the Bible. It's a word that was created to create a false theology. Let us continue.
Who supposedly was created to live amongst humans, the Shechinah.
We'll stop there again briefly. I'm sorry to keep starting and stopping and for the lag, but it takes the video a couple seconds to load. The female aspect of God was created to dwell amongst humanity, is what he just said. As a Christian, that is abhorrent, because the aspect of God that was created to dwell amongst humanity was Jesus Christ, who was a male, not a female, a male. So, can you see the false theology here? The misleading, the lies. Even in the Old Testament, God is always described as male. And the Old Testament is what those who shall not be named should be referring to. But instead, not much different than many, many offshoots of real Christianity do today. Instead of appealing to Scripture, they appeal to tradition. And that's where this comes from.
Why you're not supposed to look?
Now listen to this part.
Came to me much later. My wife Susan has a cousin who's a rabbi here in Los Angeles at Temple Israel. And I was telling him this story, and he said the reason you don't look is the legend is that during that benediction, Yeborechako, the Shechinah comes into the sanctuary to bless the congregation. And you don't want to see that because it's so powerful. You could really be seriously injured, or it could be fatal.
To see, that's the exact opposite of Jesus Christ, who came to be the revelation of God to humanity and to reunite us with God through the forgiveness of sins.
So that's why you protect yourself by hiding in your eyes. Don't look. I survived. I never dreamed that I would do that someday or be involved in it in some way. But sure enough, one day we're making the Star Trek series, television series. We come to a very lovely script called Amok Time, where my character, Spock, who comes from the Vulcan planet, has to go home to fulfill a marriage betrothal, to be married. And the lady who's going to conduct the service is a lady named Chapao, played by a wonderful Jewish Viennese actress named Celia Lovsky. I'm supposed to meet her when we arrive at the planet. We exchange hellos. It was the first time we were seeing other Vulcans, other people of my race. So I was hoping to find some touches that could develop the story of the Vulcan sociology, history, whatever, ritual. So I said to the director, I think we should have some special greeting that Vulcans do, because he said, what do you mean? I said, well, humans, we have these rituals, things that we do. We shake hands, we nod to each other, we bow to each other, we salute each other. What do Vulcans do? So I suggested this. He said, okay. And that's how we did it as a greeting, a Vulcan greeting. And boy, that just took off through the culture. It was amazing. Within days after it was on the air, I was getting it on the street. People doing this to me, waving to me in this Vulcan gesture. That's interesting. And it's been that way to this day. It's almost 50 years later, people are still doing it. It just touched the magic chord.
Why would that touch a magic chord with people? We already have our customs. We already have, like he mentioned, shaking of hands, nodding, bowing, even saluting. Why did this touch a magic chord with people? Just something for you to ponder. Now, we'll go.
Most people to this day still don't know what it's all about. A lot of people do because I've talked about it a lot. I've been asked the question, where did that come from? And I have very readily put out this story. It's sort of like a secret handshake or something, that people enjoy to exchange with each other, as if to say, I'm in on it. I know this. I know the joke. Star Trek, right? Hey, Star Trek. It's great. People don't realize they're blessing each other with.
So my question here is, are you really blessing each other, or are you actually cursing each other with this? Because they were using it as a protection symbol in their service. It's translated over into the TV series, and now people just use it as if it means nothing. Is it adiaphora? The meaning behind it is not. Because he just finished explaining the meaning to us. And we as Christians are commanded not to follow vain traditions or the teachings of men. This is one of those vain traditions. Now, this can go much deeper because there are other issues involved with Star Trek, Star Wars, pick a major movie series, television series, whatever it might be. They are promoting false beliefs, and that's always sort of been the purpose behind the quote-unquote theater. It was created and used as a religious ceremony. It was also used for entertainment, but the religious ceremony issues of it bled over into the entertainment faction, just like this does. Just like with Star Wars, with the Force, you have the good side of the Force and you have the dark side of the Force, the yin and the yang. It's basically Taoism. But yet you have Christians falling all over themselves following this in a fandom that goes beyond mortal kin, really. These same people who could name off to you all the characters in, say, Star Wars, couldn't name the 12 apostles or the 10 commandments or the books of the Bible. And even if they could, once you get into the more in-depth theology that is required by Christianity, because it's not just some light brushing of the surface, it deals with the human psyche, the human soul, the human mentality. It deals with salvation. It deals with political life. It deals with family life. It deals with all the aspects of life. It's not a brush over coating. But yet we treat it that way today. In fact, in my own life, a person that I know here recently was just that they were talking to another Christian, and the other Christian said, "Oh, do you use commentaries?" And this person got upset and angry that they were even asked that question. And I'm kind of like, well, why would you get upset by that? You should be using a commentary, because I can't understand all of Scripture. Most people that I know can't. Why not rely on those who spent their entire life studying Scripture, like Matthew Henry or John Calvin or Martin Luther? Pick a commentary or a systematic theology to deep dive into this aspect of humanity that could change the world. And that's the problem. And instead of dealing with these deeper issues, they bring out their paintbrush and they slap a adiaphora on this, even though right here, Leonard Nimoy himself is telling us this is a religious symbol. This represents the Shechinah, the feminine aspect of God. It should be anathema to the Christian, not adiaphora, anathema. Something to be cast off and cast aside. And instead, it's embraced as being indifferent. And his laugh here, he knows what he's doing.
That's great.
And that's the end of the video from Leonard Nimoy. There will be more forthcoming on different aspects of those who shall not be named and their influence, both on the Christian church and on society. Please, friends, stop and think and pray and flee from this evil, evil nonsense. Stand for the truth. Stand for the truth. Thank you and have a good day.